Hey folks, this is Curtis Brown, your instructor for Homeland Security Emergency Preparedness 302, going over week 4. My apology for the delay with getting this video post up, but I did send out the instructions and the assignment for the executive memo. Also sent out the information on how to write a memo, and I'll get to that here in a second. But you should have everything you need. There's no discussion question for the week. The only focus is on the executive memo, submitting that by Sunday. You still are responsible for the readings and the video for this week. Actually, that will help you in writing your executive memo. So continue to do the reading, but the only written assignment will be the executive memo. Just to highlight last week's discussion question, and let me first say that I'm really pleased with the level of information and detail you all are putting into these discussion questions. Everyone has detailed responses, thoughtful responses that uses both the textbook and the readings, but also personal experience and other research. And so continue to do that. Again, the grading for the discussion post is the initial response, which should be 2 to 3 paragraphs, and then a response to 2 other classmates, and those should be 1 paragraph. The grading is you get 10 points for submitting your initial post on time, and you get 5 points for each response to each classmate. Now, soon I'll start deducting points. There's still a few of you all who are not putting as much depth and thought in your initial post. I will take off a couple of points for that. And for those who are late with posting their initial response, taking off 2 points each day that you're late. So try to get those in on time. And again, it's based on the reading, and you have the syllabus, so you can already, do the reading. I just need to post the discussion questions. So this past week, the discussion question was on Holo Community, and asking you to explain in your own words what Holo Community is, and how should a emergency manager act to promote Holo Community. And many of y'all, understood exactly what that is. Holo Community is essentially saying that even though government is mainly responsible for emergency management response, the assets, the capabilities of individual citizens, the private sector, and non-profit sector should be used for emergency preparedness, whether it's response, recovery, mitigation, or preparedness. And so what we've understood, especially over the last decade or two, is that emergency management works best when those different elements of our society are involved in the process, and that government shouldn't and can't do it all on their own. That citizens, in many cases, are the first responders when it comes to disaster. You see that a lot of times, and we've had here tonight yet another school shooting, that the people most directly able to help are the people who have been impacted and help their friends and neighbors. And so it views the role of emergency managers as pulling those individuals in and pulling them into the emergency management process, pulling them into the planning, the training, and exercising. And each week I want to identify 1 or 2 folks who really hit the nail on the head, did a great job with their discussion post. Tessa Bowles talked about integrating citizens in the private sector into training and exercises. That's a great idea and response. Good emergency managers involve the private sector, nonprofits, and even some citizens into training and exercises so that they are comfortable and understand things. Part of the role of emergency management is, every day is not a hurricane or a tornado or a massive shooting. You're going to have a lot of sunny days. And so understanding that preparedness is a continuous cycle, what do you do on those sunny days that there's no disasters? You prepare, you train, you exercise, and a good emergency management programs integrates the nonprofit, private sector, and citizens into the training exercise program. Benjamin Maddock added a real good quote I like. Alone we are weak, but together we are strong. And that's just it. How do we integrate all these different entities? The private sector, for instance, they have the capabilities and resources that government doesn't have. They build equipment, public safety equipment. They own critical infrastructure. That's our utilities in some cases, our internet, etc. So government has to work with the private sector. We depend on each other, and integrating them and pulling them into the emergency management process helps for them to contribute to the process, which in many cases they are very willing to do. We as government leaders need to be able to pull them in and work with them. And so again, those were great posts. Many of you all didn't put as much attention and time on how we should act as emergency managers to pull those in, but that goes back again to pulling them into the planning process. Having meetings. Every emergency manager should regularly meet with these partners and facilitate a process where they feel like they are part of it. Emergency managers, the personality type has to be very outgoing, has to be very much facilitators. And so that's really key to pull all these different partners in. So that was this week. And, I just wanted you to understand for the whole course, the first couple of weeks, I wanted you to understand the emergencies, the disasters that we have to prepare for and plan for. And now we're moving into, how do we deal with those emergencies? How do we mitigate them? How do we plan? And the incident command system and the National Incident Management System gives good tools and frameworks for planning and preparing, both for the planning part of it and then the incident response when it really hits the fan, so to speak, and there's an emergency. We all know what to do. So if you look at the agenda, look at the readings, it should be building to understanding the emergency management cycle and each step building on each other. So this week, your assignment is the executive memo, and in here I'm pulling a couple of parts of the reading and the assignments from the last couple of weeks and asking you to put them together in the form of executive memo to a city manager. And you got the link that I sent. There was some research done on the most disaster prone cities in America. These are cities that consistently go through flooding and hurricanes and tornadoes. And I created a scenario where you have a new mayor comes into office, and because of past corruption, wants to cut all government agencies by 25%. And the the city manager, who is me in this instance, is asking you to write a memo to help explain the importance of emergency management and understand the threats that exist and why this cross-the-board cut would be disastrous. I also added in the scenario that, given that there are across-the-board cuts, this includes fire and law enforcement and EMS. And so these are the first responders that emergency management helps to coordinate. So if emergency management is cut and all the partners are cut, the main partners are cut, what would that do to the level of preparedness? And so, the questions are pretty, direct. What is emergency management and why is it important, specifically for your city or locality that you pick? What are the threats facing the city or town? Again, a lot of the ones that are in that article relate to our readings over the first 2 weeks. What steps are necessary for the town or city to prepare for these threats? Again, that's understanding preparedness and mitigation. A lot of that was covered in this week's reading from the textbook and also from some of the videos from this week and last week. and why a budget cut would negatively affect the ability of the Office of Emergency Management to perform at the level necessary to prepare for potential threats. What is the impact of these threats? And so I'm asking you to put this in an executive memo is because this is the way in which communication occurs within the workplace and within professional settings. It's not a book report. It's definitely not a letter. So when I say it's not a letter, I do not want to see, dear Curtis Brown at the top, and then at the bottom, sincerely, and see your name signed. Given that this is a memo, the opening part of the memo that says the date, to and from, and the subject is all that you need, and you go right into third person, and you help to answer the questions that were asked by the city manager. And a good thing that I do is I use I use subtitles to help the reader hone in on the questions that were asked. So there's 4 bullets that highlight the questions that are asked by the city manager. I would suggest 4 subtitles, bolded and underlined to help guide the reader and to ensure you answer the questions that are asked. But again, going back to the importance of an executive memo or memo writing, leaders in organization ask their staff to put together a memo because, one, they trust the individual as an expert, an SME, a subject matter expert, who understands their field or topic. They know that they have degrees in this stuff. They know that they do reading, and they understand their budget. They understand the impacts of different policy and legislation. And so it's not supposed to be comprehensive like a book report, but it's supposed to really hone in and get to the point. And so that's why it's shorter, it's to the point, and the tone is very direct. And so the city manager is really asking you for, what is your opinion? Is a 25% cut good or bad? Hopefully, I would believe that most of you all will say it's bad because it would limit capabilities. Again, mayor, you can't be upset at them wanting to cut funds, especially if there's been corruption in the past. But you would hope that as it relates to public safety, that they would be a little bit more strategic. But again, if you believe that the cuts won't hurt, feel free to put that opinion in there. Just make sure you back it up with facts and information. But I really want you all to, over the course of this class, to really improve in your business writing, so to speak, your ability to write memos, and to directly speak to executive leadership, and to give your opinion based on your knowledge and your knowledge as it relates to your reading and your interest in emergency management, homeland security. And so, again, I sent out some guidance, some links from online where they discuss how to write a memo. I encourage you to read that, look over that. That would definitely help you in terms of developing your memo. One thing to remember, memos are single-spaced. They're not double-spaced. And I forgot to put that in there in the guidance as well. So go ahead and submit that to me via email by Sunday, and I'll send out some information along with this link to make sure that everyone has my email address. I'll send you a confirmation email that I received it. Again, shoot me an email if you have any questions, browncc5@vcu.edu. And if we ever need to discuss anything, we can definitely set up a call as well. All right. Thanks a lot, folks. And y'all have a good rest of the week. And I look forward to seeing y'all memos on Sunday. Bye-bye.